Welcome back, everyone, to the Nimber Tribe podcast. Today we have two guests on the show. One of them is Bethan and the other one is Jess from Inside Voices. They are on a mission to empower women to become confident, grounded communicators by equipping them with practical tools and techniques that command attention and make their voices truly heard. I'm so happy to have you guys here today, and I would love to jump in with a question around your origin story, because every superhero has one, and I'm super curious how you guys ended up in the realm of communication, and then also how you came together to build Inside Voices.
Well, I think, like all great stories, mine and Jess's started over wine. And it's interesting, actually, because we have a very similar background. So we both went to drama school, so we trained as actors. I took a route into voiceover work and then did a lot of kind of strange jobs, as jobbing actors do. So really picked up lots and lots of different skills along the way, ended up in the events world, and then very quickly decided that I really wanted to find something alongside my acting and voiceover work that gave me a little bit more job satisfaction, should we say, than sitting at home drinking tea between acting jobs. And so I started coaching. So I've been coaching for about 15 years now. I set up my own practice and really loved doing that, but kind of got to a point where, to be honest, I was a little bit bored. I was doing the same thing over and over again. I was working with the same types of people, which was great, and I loved the one-to-one aspect, but I really didn't feel like it was lighting me up in the way that I hoped it would. And so there was a bit of a piece of the puzzle missing. And enter Jess.
Yeah, and my journey into it is very similar but slightly different to Bethan, in that I also trained as an actor and had a very similar experience to Bethan, in that when you're a jobbing actor, you end up doing all kinds of weird and wonderful work to be able to support yourself trying to be an actor. And one of the things that I did was work in the events industry. And I ended up really liking it. So I kind of took more of a corporate role for a while. And even though I loved it, I think what I really loved about it was the communication aspect. And I loved presenting. I loved the kind of forward-facing communication side of it. And what I also realized was that there were so many things that I had learned in drama school and training and acting, and also being on stage, that I could really help people by sharing those tools and techniques with them, because it seemed to me that so many people were really struggling to speak up in meetings or give presentations. And for me, those things felt quite natural. And obviously, some of us prefer to do things like that, more than others. But I was sort of trying to find a way that I could combine that corporate experience that I had and my performance background. And that's how I made my way into one-to-one coaching, public speaking coaching. And then I met Bethan, and Bethan we met at a friend's dinner party, and we ended up realizing that we were super aligned on loads of our kind of goals and what really interested us. And Bethan was really helpful for me as I was starting up my practice as well. She kind of gave me loads of help in how to do that. And we kind of realized that actually there was something more that we wanted to be doing, and that we wanted to set something up together, and that we were very passionate about specifically helping women, because we had seen in the clients that we'd worked with that there seemed to be this kind of difference between the way that the women that we were working with, the way that they were kind of joining us with the things that they were approaching us with, the issues that they were experiencing, the way that they felt like their voices weren't being heard. That was something that we were hearing a lot. And so we decided to put our heads together, and that's how Inside Voices was born, and that's why we created our signature course, and why we're here now.
I love that. So much good stuff in there. And I think we hear this a lot lately. Like, you need to find your voice. You need to like have kind of a uniqueness to it, maybe an authenticity, but also to create that room to really be heard. So I'm very curious if someone tells you like, I want to find my voice. What does that even mean? And like, how would you approach that?
We talk about this quite a lot because, like you said, it's something that we hear a lot. And for us, I think to be able to find your voice, it's if you're going into work and you feel like you're in a meeting and nobody is listening to you, or you feel like you're trying to make a suggestion about what should happen, but people are just talking over you, or you feel like there's something you really want to say to someone, but something's holding you back from doing it. Either you're too scared about what the reaction's going to be, or you're worried that they're not going to take you seriously. A lot of the women that we work with approach us with kind of issues like this. But the really fundamental thing is that they do have something to say. They know what they want to say. They're just maybe not empowered at the moment to feel confident enough to say it. So for us, I think finding your voice is having the tools, being empowered to use the tools that are going to enable you to say what it is that you really want to say. And that's what we are trying to do with our courses and our programs, because it's not like, there's this kind of rhetoric around women, not having confidence and not having a voice. And I think actually they do have a voice. It's just that perhaps the tools or the situation's not there for them to feel empowered to use it. So yeah, that's what I would say for that one.
And to add to that, I think you really hit the nail on the head with something you just said, Neen, about authenticity, because having a voice and using your voice are one thing, but finding your authentic voice and feeling like you're able to connect with not just what you're saying, but who you're saying it to, I think that's quite different. And if you don't feel like you have that connection, so for example, if you don't really believe what you're saying, nobody else is going to believe it either. So for us, it's about doing the work from the inside out. So building that confidence piece so that then you can implement the more practical tools so you can use your voice in a really effective, authentic, connected way.
Awesome. Where will we start then? You said like we're building it from the inside out. So I believe there's like, you said like a confidence piece, and then there are probably like different techniques that maybe like from your background of being an actor, like you have more insight into like, I don't know, how to make the voice sound and how to just entertain a room and all of these different things. But where would someone start who is like, well, I am this person in the meeting where I know I have something to contribute, but then I don't really speak up, or if I do, there are like 5 other colleagues who kind of just like walk all over me. Like, where would I even start?
Well, I think for us, and we would say this to anybody, well, everybody particularly that we work with, but anybody, I think the first place to start is building an awareness. So often, and we were just chatting about this, Nina, prior to the recording, about not necessarily being problem aware. So knowing that something is happening, but not quite being sure what it is or why it's happening. So for us, the first step would be to start what we would call a communication journal. And that is just a really reflective practice of writing down what is going on for you. So you don't have to do it every day. Maybe at the end of the week, you could sit down and think, okay, what were situations that went really well in terms of my confidence or communication or how I felt about something? What went really well and why? And maybe what were times that I am reflecting back on and I think, oh my goodness, I wish I'd done something differently, or I wish I'd said that, or I can't believe so-and-so stole my idea when I'd said it 5 minutes earlier, which is what we hear all the time. And really start to build that awareness and flex that muscle of what's happening when and how it feels for you. Because as soon as you start to recognize your habits, the things that are going on, the sooner you can start to take action to move through them. And so when we talk about this confidence piece, it really is looking inwards and kind of reflecting inwards on what's happening and why from the inside, so that we can then move through that with effective exercises. So overcoming self-doubt, imposter syndrome, really understanding your value, working out what makes you brilliant, building that confidence from the inside so that you can then implement the more practical communication tools, such as using your voice effectively, finding resonance, pacing, pitching, body language, all of those practical things that, yes, absolutely are so important. But we fully believe, and in fact know from the work that we do, that from starting from the inside, you are far more likely to reach your communication goals.
Yeah, and I think that's why so many people, they might have read some really great books about public speaking, they might have watched YouTube videos. So there is really great stuff out there to help us improve as a communicator. But like Bethan just said, what is not in that is that self-awareness bit of, okay, what is it that's currently holding me back? And then how do I move through that so that I can then use all those great tips, which, you know, I'm reading about or I'm seeing, and also feel empowered to then practice them, because that's such a big part of it. You know, we can know all the stuff, but if we don't put ourselves out there to practice it, then how do we ever grow?
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that awareness piece, and like the journal idea, really, really cool to just like at the end of the week or at the end of the workday, just like jot down kind of what went well and what didn't.
Yeah.
And then to also build that, what I hear a lot is the inner capacity, like the confidence, the self-worth. There was a lot of that in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And hearing you talk about that makes me think of an exercise that we love to do. We do it in our signature program. And actually, we received some feedback yesterday from one of our previous cohort participants. And she specifically mentioned this exercise. And this exercise, we basically get each participant to share something with the group. And then we get the rest of the group to feedback about what makes it brilliant. And oh my goodness, the impact that exercise has, because you can take mine and Jess's word for it. We're experts in the field. We know what we're doing. We've been doing it for a very long time. We've seen it all. But when one of your peers comes to you and says, well, I think this, and I think this, that is so validating and such a beautiful thing to be able to facilitate within a group. And I think that confidence and that empowerment is so bolstered by communities. That's another thing that we're so passionate about creating with Inside Voices, is this sense of community, because feeling like there's something missing in your communication, or feeling underconfident or undervalued, or like you're an imposter, can feel like such a lonely place. But when we say you are not alone, holy bajoli, you are not alone. This is such a universal challenge that really does affect women in a way that it doesn't affect men, generally speaking.
Why do you think that is? Like, what are kind of these common themes that you see over and over again and that you feel are quite specific to females?
It's a really interesting question, and it's one that Bethan and I talk about a lot, because we're really wary about not wanting to kind of convey the message that this is a female problem, that it's kind of somehow women's responsibility, that there's this underconfidence and it's a kind of, something that needs to be solved by women alone, because I think
it's their fault.
Exactly, or that it's their fault. It wouldn't exist if there wasn't something being reflected back at us by society, which is fundamentally that our voice is not as valuable as our male counterparts. And that is reflected back in some very tangible ways, which we cannot deny, in that we are paid less money and we are not represented at board level in the same degree as men are. And have a really interesting client that we've worked with, and she told us she is at board level for a very successful company, but she's the only female on that board, and she's the first woman to be on that board. And she said something very interesting, which was that the door, if you're able to knock on the door, the door was actually quite welcoming once it was opened, and she felt like she was supported when she took that seat at that board table. However, it was the confidence to knock on the door in the first place that was required in order for her to get there. And I think one of the things which we are hoping to change by helping women to become more self-aware, more confident, more in control of their communication and their voices, it is that ability to go forward and knock on the door, and to go forward and ask for a pay rise, to go forward and negotiate whatever it is. You might not always get the thing, but if you don't feel empowered to even take that first step, then that's going to be a massive block. And I personally, and Beth, and I know, agrees with this, but we really think it organizational, or it needs to be an organizational change. Companies need to facilitate this in a better way, and that is obviously, we have quite a big mountain to climb, but you know, we're hearing so much amazing stuff about so many female run companies and female entrepreneurs, and what that is giving to the economy at the moment, and that is amazing, and long may it continue. And I think it's empowering everybody to know that they can go for what they want in the first place.
And we really see this kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, this melee almost of women kind of stuck in these middle management positions. And they would say themselves that they feel stuck. And there's a couple of statistics that support this. So one of which is that, this was in Sheryl Sandberg's book in 2013, but she says that when it comes to applying for a promotion, men will fulfill approximately 60% of the skills needed for that particular role that they'd be moving into before they apply for the promotion. Women would wait until they are 100% of those skills before applying for the promotion. So already you have this massive disparity. So is it any wonder that we're seeing C-suite positions being taken by men when they are just leading the charge and going, no, do you know what? I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas women, I mean, there are reasons for that. It's not a woman's fault necessarily. There's another study that I was looking at recently that says that women are viewed as having less leadership potential than men. And so that equates to a 14% difference in women versus men being promoted year on year. So for women are 14% less likely to be promoted year on year. And if you look at the cumulative effect of that, well, you're where we are now. Mm-hmm. You're with women stuck in a position where they don't feel able to break through that glass ceiling. And like Jess said, it may well be very welcoming on the other side, but if you're not empowered and supported and motivated to take that risk and step out of your comfort zone. And if you've ever encountered myself and Jess before, we talk a lot about comfort zones. And we have this concept of, we think of the comfort zone as being this space, and then outside of that is like discomfort. But we really love this concept, and we shared it recently with a client. She was like, that has changed the way I think about everything. And we were like, cool. But this idea of what we call the stretch zone, we didn't coin it, it's from somewhere else. But it's stretching your comfort zone, because that's how we grow. That's how we learn. That's how things happen. That is where the magic happens, when we are stretching our comfort zone. Because if we're comfortable, we're doing the same thing. But if we're stretching it, and we don't have to be uncomfortable necessarily, though more power to you if you want to jump in with both feet. But that stretch zone is where that growth happens and that change happens. And that's what we really want to share with women, is that it doesn't have to be scary necessarily, but you can break through the glass ceiling with a bit of support and feeling like you're equipped with the tools and techniques you need to be able to take that step.
And I think we're living it ourselves as well, because we are trying to, we have Inside Voices, we're running it, we're both new mums, we're busy, we are trying to knock on doors all the time, and we know what it feels like. We are also in that stretch zone every day, I would
All
say.
the time.
All the time. So yeah, absolutely. It really is. And it is a very creative place to be. And I think if the more that we can kind of encourage everyone that that place is not a scary place, but it's actually really exciting, and it's where you confront your real potential and you achieve things in that space that you never thought you would be able to. But I think it's that education bit. It's about that, we are empowering you that you can step there, and it will feel different, but it will be exciting, and great things will happen, and there is support to be had in that space as well.
I love that. And I feel like it comes back to the awareness point that we already talked about, like even with the statistics that you were like throwing out there, like just knowing that, oh, I don't need to meet 100% of the criteria, like I can apply even if I'm just hitting like 60, 70%. I think it's so important that we have that conversation more and more and more, so especially women wake up to that reality that like, okay, maybe I can step into that growth zone and get out of my comfort zone.
And I think this isn't a conversation for now, because once you get me started, I'm not going to stop. But I think a lot of that is around employers and decision makers really checking in with their bias and their bias against how they feel about women versus men that they might not even be aware of, because this is such a societal challenge that we're facing. So there's more to it than just saying, hey, women, you can do it, let's help you. There's more to it than that, right? But this is the first step to give women the community, the support, the tools, the techniques, the confidence that they need to make the decision of whether they want to knock on those doors. And that's what we're all about.
100%. And it kind of reminds me of the saying, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are a lot of elephants that need to be eaten to kind of resolve this issue long term. And there are things that men should probably think about when they hire, but then also women when they step into their power. And I feel like it often starts way earlier than the workplace. Like we probably get some messaging around all of these topics already when we're really, really young.
100%.
Like I know so many like small girls who are so aware of their surrounding, and they are so aware of like not taking up too much space and making room for other people. And that can really be a disadvantage in some moments when you want to speak up and you want to take that room and you want to step in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's so many interesting, so my little boy is 19 months old at the moment, and we're just entering into that phase where you kind of have to start having boundaries, and it's a new realm. He doesn't love the boundaries so far, but hey, we'll see. And I've been kind of reading a lot more about how we communicate with our little people, and there's actually a difference in the language that we use with little boys compared to little girls, and that's so ingrained in us, and it starts so young that we are giving them, like you said, these messages that we're all absorbing these. It's kind of it's all of our responsibilities to go, hang on a minute, why would I say that to you because you're a girl, and I would say that to you because you're a boy, and kind of confront that in ourselves, because it absolutely does start at such a young age.
Even and to then the point of, sorry, Jess, I'm just thinking, because I've got a little boy as well. So Jess and I are in the pits of bringing up feminist boys, which is a new challenge. But gendered clothes, like all
oh my gosh,
clothes. I'm strong, I'm brave, diggers, like I can do anything. All the girls' clothes, they're princesses, I'm pretty, like I'm a mummy's girl. And it's, for me, I'm like, oh, bore off. Like, is that the messaging that we're really instilling in our young girls? That boys can be anything, and that they're brave and strong, and that girls are pretty. Like, we can do better than that. Like, girls deserve better than that. And you're right, it starts at such a young age. And that's not probably something that even crosses the mind of most parents when they're buying these pretty pink dresses. But it is the messaging, and it's the societal conditioning that we are just we take as the norm because that's what it's
Mhm.
always been.
Yeah.
Love it. If we think about now having this kind of ingrained messaging and we are kind of the shy person in the boardroom and we don't want to speak up, we have already talked about the awareness journaling, like having really getting maybe facts in there, like, okay, this went well, this didn't went well, like to really build awareness around this. What would then kind of be the next step? Because I think a lot of communication, especially when you're practicing in the beginning, there's a lot of nerves around it. Like we can get really, really nervous, and that doesn't really serve us in these situations. So like, how can we work through that?
Yeah, I think managing nerves is a huge part of how we become a much more confident and grounded communicator. And I would say that most of the women who we work with have some degree of nerves around public speaking. And something that we're really passionate about, as well as understanding what's holding us back from the inside out, building that awareness, our voice and our how we use it is absolutely amazing. And we kind of see it as if like it's an instrument, really. And nerves are a piece of that puzzle, because if you understand how your nervous system works and how breath control can play a massive part, how there are certain techniques that you can implement that can help to lower the stress levels and improve the way that you communicate. If you know how to play the instrument of your voice, then you are well on your way to being able to manage those situations. And I think that's something that Bethan and I, as performers, we really are so passionate about sharing, because we know what it feels like to be nervous about standing up on a stage in front of people. I think any actor, politician, someone who uses their voice in a public setting, they are going to feel some butterflies, some nerves. But the point is that they see that as excitement because they know how to channel it and harness it. And you learn that from exposure. Yeah, absolutely. Throwing yourself out there time and time again and kind of learning and building up that resilience. But also it's about, well, okay, I'm feeling a bit nervous, but I know that if I slow down my breath, if I breathe into my diaphragm, if I speak from my diaphragm, if I really articulate and I put my attention onto the audience, then I'm going to be able to manage those nerves. And it won't matter that I feel like my heart rate is speeding up a little bit, or that I feel that you know, this is a situation of where there are some heightened emotions, because I'm going to be the one in control. And I think if you're not a performer, you probably never learn how to do that, because we definitely don't get taught it in school. So for us, in terms of managing those nerves, that's quite a practical thing. And that would be about really understanding how your voice works, how your breath works, and then being brave, putting yourself in that stretch zone and practicing those techniques in real life, because that's where you're going to see those changes happen. And really hearing us when we say that it is not just you that is feeling like that. You know, it is very normal that you feel nervous for this situation, but what we want to let you know is that you're the one in the driving seat.
Yeah.
Yes, it takes practice, 100% takes practice, but you absolutely have the ability to manage that.
And I think that awareness piece is so important for all of those things, because so often we can catastrophize as humans, and you have one bad experience, something doesn't go the way you want to. And so that informs a belief that you have about yourself. So, for example, I spoke up in a meeting once. I got my words all mixed up because I was really panicky. I felt like everybody was looking at me and judging me. I cannot speak up in meetings. So that's what you're telling yourself. So that little, I cannot speak up in meetings, I am not good at presenting in front of people, lives here somewhere, just sneaking away. We call it the little inner critic. Mine always comes out like this, like a little worm. Don't know what that says about me, but it worms away until before you know it, you don't even question it. That's just a belief you have. I'm not good at speaking up in meetings. Once you've built that awareness, you can catch yourself. You can catch that sneaky inner critic, and you can go, well, hold on. Is that based in truth? I have one experience, but what else is evidence to suggest that that is a true statement? And you can rationalize it. And if you can go, well, this, and this suggests that that is true, then okay, great. You have got a really good starting place to start to move through it. If you go, no evidence for, other than that one experience I had 5 years ago, that since then I have done this, I've done this, I've been told this, I have this feedback, I have this achievement. Maybe this isn't based in truth, and maybe this is a belief I need to start to work through. And then you can take action to start to move through it so that you can implement those tools. And I think that's really important. It's a process. By no means are we saying that this is overnight. You're not going to come to myself and Jess and then in 2 days be like, oh, hey, got this public speaking thing. It unfortunately doesn't work like that. But we really believe in putting the work in and getting the results, because if it's worth doing properly. And that is an investment of your time and your commitment. But if you are committed to it, you will get there. There's no doubt.
I love that. And I also love that it frames speaking as a tool that I can learn and not like an inherent trait, because I feel like so many of us, we are just like, well, this is not something I'm good at. And I'm guilty of this myself. I was the kid in school, like I would rather write like 10 essays before doing like a 2-minute presentation. And then at some point I really needed to step up and like practice this. And I realized like I don't suck at it as much as I thought. So I think there's a lot of value in just like challenging that belief and then taking proactive action to like reframe and practice.
Yeah, 100%. We really believe that, you know, everyone has the ability to. And the thing is it's not about making everybody into a carbon copy of what a great public speaker is, you know, because what is that anyway? And looking at some of the public speakers we have in our world at the moment. Anyway, we won't go there. But the fact is that it's about us all being able to use our own individual authentic voice. You know, there are some TED Talks that you watch and the speaker isn't doing all of the great public speaking things that they're supposed to be doing. They're standing in one place. They're not speaking. They're not projecting necessarily, but because they are so passionate about what they are talking about and the message that they're delivering, we don't care, because we would still say that's a great communicator standing there, because they're able to be vulnerable and be themselves and share their message. And I think that is what it's all about, because for most people, communication and public speaking is going to look like maybe difficult conversations, running meetings. It's going to look like interviews. It's not going to be standing on stage in front of thousands of people, because that's not something that happens that often. But just because you don't want to be that person standing on a stage in front of thousands of people doesn't mean that you are not a good speaker or not a good communicator, and that you can't learn how to improve in those areas really quite drastically. Like Bethan and I have worked with people, the transformation from when they start working on themselves in these areas to when they leave, it is absolutely huge. They go from being the person that's saying, I don't even put my hand up in a meeting, to being someone who's setting up a group in the company that they work in to allow more people to have public speaking opportunities, or negotiating a pay rise, or whatever it might be. And that's because they've put that work in. So yeah, we are very passionate about making sure that people know that it is absolutely a learnable skill.
Love that. And I also love that you have sprinkled in, like both of you, a lot of examples of where we actually need these communication skills. It's not only on stage. It's like with our partner, it's in a meeting, it's negotiating salary. And all of these things are so important when we think of the quality of our lives. Like the quality can improve so much just by having these maybe very uncomfortable conversations at first, but to really practice. Can we get a little bit into that toolbox? If I am someone who has now built a little bit more awareness and I'm like kind of watching how I'm showing up in different situations, there are clearly some strategies that I can kind of learn and tools that I can practice to then become more effective at communicating. Can we just dive into a few of those that you like to work on?
Yeah, of course. I think one thing that we always start with after we've looked at your voice as your instrument, so that would be breath, resonance, using your diaphragm. And it's always a funny one. We feel like we have to caveat when we talk about breath, because obviously we all breathe, and we've all been doing quite a good job of it so far because we're here. And when we talk about breath for effective communication, it is a different skill. There are ways that we can use our instrument, if you like, to really effectively communicate what we say. So we can change the way we say something by using our breath, and we can change the way we feel using our breath. So yes, we know everybody can breathe, but it's a really good place to start. So once we've done that, we would look more at the practical ways of effectively communicating. And a lot of that is around the symptoms of anxiety or nerves. So if you think about when you're nervous, something that might happen is perhaps you start to speak really quickly and you're not actually really connected to what you're saying. You're not thinking about the structure. You're just trying to get it all out before you have to sit down because, oh my goodness, you just really don't want to be there. And then you sit down and you think, what just happened? You've had an out-of-body experience. And we hear so many of our clients saying that to us, that they just want to get it all over with, sit down, and then it's like the past 3 minutes didn't happen. They have no idea what they said. So for us, it's about giving tools to be intentional about how you're saying what you're saying. So we look at pacing. We look at pulling out keywords. We look at how to really deliver those key messages in an effective way so that your audience isn't sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, this is all over the place. I'm having to work really hard to work out what I should be taking away from this. They can just sit there, listen to what you're saying, and you are doing all the work for them. And it's something that can be in itself transformational. And it's the idea that you don't put the spotlight on yourself as the speaker. The pressure isn't on you. You think about the audience or the listener, and you really tap into what it is that they want to take away, how you want them to feel. And it's such a small shift. And some people will be like, it's the same thing. It's still the pressure on you, but it's a mindset switch. And these are the little techniques and the little tools that we love because we see the impact they have. So when you can truly connect with the needs of your listener and how you can help them, because after all, that's why we're speaking. We have something to say that we want them to take away. When you can truly tap into that, that is an amazing tool that we share with people. So pace, connection, key messaging, how to land with impact, and then it goes into, body language, all of that kind of stuff. So it's really, and we've got a video course that we call the 101 of effective communication, because it really does go from the beginning, so the breath, all the way to the end. So, what's the last thing we cover in the video course, Jess? I can't even think of it now.
Well, delivering with impact and then it's kind of how we bring storytelling into it. So how we might bring more of ourselves into the picture. And I think what Bethan was saying about how we get ourselves into that frame of mind where we're really putting that audience first, we like to call that getting yourself into contribution mode, because I think often as a speaker we can kind of feel almost like we're in competition with the audience, that they have all these myriad preconceived ideas and thoughts about us or about what we're doing and how worthy we are of being there, how great our performance is or terrible our performance is. And actually all of that thinking is just so unhelpful, because it takes up loads of space and there isn't any room left to think about what we're saying. So just thinking about, okay, how can I get myself into this feeling of contribution? How can I help? What are the needs of my audience? That is definitely an amazing tool, and one that we use all the time.
We did it before this podcast. But also I think just being really aware and just checking in with yourself about what is in your circle of control and what is outside it. Because if you are worrying about something that is not in your control, oh, you're wasting brain space. Like, just focus on the things you can control. Think about what you're saying. Think about why you're saying it. Think about how you're saying it. Don't think about the person on the front row who looks like they might not be listening properly, because you have no idea what's going on for them. That is a waste of your time. Focusing on what you can control and doing that to the best of your abilities is always going to serve you in the best possible way to be the best speaker you can be.
Yeah, and something else we say to sort of get yourself into that frame of mind is to ask yourself the question before any kind of speaking engagement, whatever that looks like for you. Why is it me saying this, physically speaking? Why am I here in this room or virtual room, whatever it might be, and not just writing this down in an email or sending this over in a PDF? Because it's very, very different, and there are, you know, benefits to both. But if I've been given this opportunity to use my voice and to speak, there is a reason why I've been asked to do that, and I have to figure out what that is if I'm gonna give this my all and be as successful as I want to be. So why me? Why am I saying it and not just writing it down? All of these questions, and it can seem a bit, I think that the prep can seem a bit overkill potentially, but really it's in that preparation. It's how you get yourself into the right frame of mind before you even open your mouth that is going to have the biggest impact. Because once you've started speaking, you can't really be in that thinking space anymore, because you've obviously got lots of other things to be doing. So yeah.
And you do get to a point as well where this starts to be habit. I think you don't necessarily have to sit down with your notebook and think, oh, okay, I'm going to spend 20 minutes doing the prep. It's not real life. We don't always have the opportunity to do that. But making these little steps habit, that's really going to help you to, you know, on your way to a meeting. What do I want the people in this meeting to take away? Why am I saying what I'm saying? What are my 3 key points? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, great, let's go. You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a really kind of elongated process, but you have to do the work to get to that point.
So much good stuff in here, yes. This might put you a little bit on the spot, but let's just think about a situation where maybe tomorrow I need to speak in front of people, because I think this is like the biggest fear. I think they made like a ranking where they ask a bunch of people like what their biggest fear is, and I think like public speaking always comes out on top.
Yeah.
So that's think like yes.
That
isn't
wild,
that crazy?
And the official term is glossophobia, and the fact that it even has an official term is wild.
Yeah
100%. But let's say tomorrow we have a presentation. We have now listened to this episode and we want to go back and we want to take all the notes and we want to like go through all of the meat that we have already covered. But let's say you could just make a short list of like 5 things that they should maybe prepare beforehand, think beforehand. Like what would be kind of those top 5 things? If I need to show up to a presentation tomorrow, what do I do right now?
My first big one would be establish your expertise at the beginning. So ask yourself that question, why me, first? Because if we can't trust or believe in why it's us that's going to be in that meeting room, then that's really difficult. So even if you're there and you're giving an update, it's not necessarily a big presentation that you've had to create. You still want to be thinking, okay, why is it me? Okay, I've been working on the project for 3 months. I know more about this project than my senior colleagues who I'm relaying this information to. They actually don't know everything that I know about it. I have been doing this role for several years, and I also have a really important update that I need to give them, which if I don't say it, the rest of the project is going to be challenged or whatever it might be. So just really simply thinking, what were my reasons for being here? That would be my big number 1. What would your number 2 be, Bethan?
I would say, and it might not necessarily be in this order, but I would say 100%, what are the 3 key takeaways you want your audience to have? And if necessary, a call to action. So what action do you want them to take after this meeting? And I think being really clear on those 3 things, there could potentially be loads more, but distill it, come down to those 3 key points, because the human brain doesn't have unlimited capacity, and you really want to make sure that you hammer those 3 things home. That's going to dictate not just what you say, but how you say it. Perhaps you'll use those as a summary before your call to action. Perhaps you will do an introduction and say, the main things that I want you to take away from today are X, Y, and Z. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. You can help use those things to help you structure what you're going to say. And again, it's all about helping the listener to be able to just sit there and listen and not have to work hard. Because as soon as they have to work hard, or they think, oh, maybe what is the key takeaway here? You're losing them, because they're not listening to you anymore. They're thinking about something, and you really want to keep them engaged with what you're saying. So that would be my second one.
I would also say that if you are feeling nervous, something that anyone can do, whether you've done any voice training or anything at all, is to check in with your breath in the 5-10 minutes that you have before the meeting, presentation, whatever. So take yourself off to the loo if you need to, go find a little space and literally sit, and you can just do a very simple breathing exercise where you maybe breathe in for 3 counts and then you exhale through the mouth for 6 counts. So exhaling for longer than you inhale has been scientifically proven that that's a really calming breath cycle that you can get yourself into. And genuinely, if you are feeling nervous and you give yourself that 2 to 5 minutes, whatever it is that whatever that pocket of time that you have, you just give yourself that space to check in with your breath. I promise you, you will be more in control of those nerves when you then have to speak up.
This is such a great question, because now that we've started, I'm like, and this, and this, and this, and
yeah.
But one thing that I would really say, well, I've got 2 more. I don't know how many more you've got, Jess, but if I'm really being particular and having to choose just a couple, then I would say tapping in with how you're feeling and really trying to switch to a growth mindset. So not using that fixed mindset thinking, I'm nervous, so I'm not good. It's such a common thing that we hear, nerves equal me not being good. That's rubbish, first and foremost. But secondly, if we can maybe rewire and think, okay, well, all of these symptoms that I'm experiencing in this moment, okay, I've got this elevated heart rate, I've got sweaty palms, I have like a feeling in the pit of my stomach, maybe I'm feeling fiddly. What else has the same symptoms associated? And the answer will no doubt be excitement. And so if you can really switch that mindset and think, I'm not fearful, I recognize that all these things are happening. I'm not trying to brush them under the carpet because they are very real, but I'm experiencing those because I'm excited about this opportunity. What is it about this opportunity that's exciting? Is it that you get to speak in front of people that could potentially open doors for you? Is it that you could have a policy implemented that you are instrumental in shaping? You know, what is it about this opportunity that's exciting? Is it that it's just really helping you to stretch that comfort zone? Because we know it's where the magic happens. And so really trying to switch to that growth mindset in those moments of panic, and recognize that panic will abate. It's not a fixed stage. It's not going to stay forever. You will be fine. Recognizing that, I think, is really important. So that's my next one. Jess, have you got another one?
I think mine would go back to and it's an extension of what you were saying for the first point, really. It's that idea of really putting yourself in the minds of what you want your audience, whoever that audience are. It might be 3 people in the meeting, it might be 20, but what you want them to feel, and how you can get that across in your messaging. So I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to think, well, but I don't sound a certain way, I don't look like that person when I'm talking, I don't have this posture, my voice doesn't sound however it does. But we are all unique, and the way that we deliver what we have to say is also unique. And that is amazing, because in a team we all need we need all different types of energy. We need all different types of people. So as much as you can in that moment, just trusting that the way you're going to do it is the best way. And the way that you do that is by putting yourself into that contribution mindset and thinking about how can I help, rather than going to, well, everyone is thinking that I'm really terrible. Everyone's thinking that, well, she hasn't been doing that job for very long, so who does she think she is for standing up? Or, God, she's terrible, she said, or whatever it is. Our brain is
really... Who is thinking that anyway, but yeah.
Exactly.
Am I allowed to give one more, or is it cheating?
We can have one bonus tip.
One I would say something that is super important is where the body goes, the mind follows. So if I was to walk out on a stage and I was to say, hi everybody, I'm really excited to be here. My name's Bethan and I'm the co-founder of Inside Voices. That would have a very different impact to if I was to walk out and say, hello everybody, my name's Bethan, I am co-founder of Inside Voices and I am super excited to be here with you today. Yeah? I've said the same thing, but in the first one, I was small and I was underconfident. And as much as we say, people aren't thinking about you in the way you think they are, we do as humans make impressions of people. And I think it's something like you have 7 seconds to make a first impression. Yeah. So if your first impression is going to be this, you've really started from a place where you've got a challenge to get them back on side. Whereas if your first impression is of a confident, grounded, present communicator, then your audience is like, great, 45-minute keynote, hit me. Yeah. So just thinking about your body language and how that potentially is reflecting what's happening on the inside and making a conscious effort just to open out. It can be as simple as that. Think about your shoulders, your shoulder blades coming together and down. And it's not about sticking your chest out. I'm sure everybody's heard of the power pose. We're not going to go on stage and stand like Amy Cuddy and make ourselves massive. By all means, go and do that in the toilet 5 minutes before, because it is proven to have an effect. But you want to go out there and look present and look like you're confident, even if it's that kind of duck in water thing inside. You're frantically paddling, but nobody would know from the outside. So it's almost where the body goes, the mind follows. Giving yourself that first impression, I think that's an important one.
So much good stuff in here. I love chatting with you guys. Where can people go if they want to work with you, if they want to find out more? Like where can we send people to? Yeah,
we would love for people to come and find out more about us. And there are lots of ways that people can work with us. So we are actually launching today, in fact, but it will be too late for the people, but there'll be another one because we're launching a new community event. Very new in that we haven't actually got a name yet. So if any listeners can think of a great name for a community space where women are going to come together, learn some really practical communication, public speaking tips, but also be able to practice and implement the tools, then let us know, because we are all ears. But yes, we're starting a new community event. It's going to be every other week, so bi-weekly on a Wednesday lunchtime. That's a completely free way that people can get a taster of what we do and what we're about, and we would absolutely love to see people there. We also have a signature program, which is a 12-week program, and this is, we would say, the kind of transformational program that we run. Our next cohort is starting in January, and we have the course has a combination of a kind of e-learning aspect, so it's kind of self guided aspect of learning with our video course, but also with one-to-one coaching and group coaching, and people join us either individually or companies can sponsor their employees to take a place on the course as well. We also have one-to-one coaching, so if that is more your bag, if you would like some specifically kind of tailored coaching, then that's also something that you can get involved with. And I think that's everything,
Well, not
Bethan.
quite, because
No, it's not.
I mean, it doesn't exist yet, but
Oh, yes.
next month we are launching a community hub, which will essentially be a membership. So a place where you will find resources, group coaching, community in a really accessible way, because one of our core values is community. And actually, by doing these free community calls, these events, having our membership, bringing together cohorts of women, that is where we see the work really shining, is when women come together and support each other and become each other's cheerleaders and lift each other up. And that is the world we want to see. So that is what we are creating at Inside Voices. So the membership will be live next month, but you can find out about all of these things on our website, which actually, by the time you watch this, may well have had a brand spanking new makeover, because it is in the works. So in a couple of weeks, it'll be.
Had a zhuzh.
What was that? Had a zhuzh?
A zhuzh. It'll have had a little zhuzh.
But you can find us at www.weareinsidevoices.com, or just follow us on socials. Yeah, and we'd love to have you as part of our community. Join us, join the mission.
Awesome. And we're going to have all of that linked below for everyone who wants to check that out. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a real pleasure.
All right, Tribe. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and a comment below. There's going to be new episodes dropping every Wednesday, covering everything from entrepreneurship to health, basically giving you all the tools that you need to peak perform in business and in your life. So please make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is a one-woman show. There is no network, there are no sponsors, and there is no editing team behind this, so it's up to me and you to spread the word about it. So if you have a friend who might benefit from what you learned today in this episode, please make sure to share a link with them. I see you next Wednesday. Much love.